So the question was, how did we get into this industry? I graduated University of Texas in 2010, it was during a recession. I think I think there was a recession going on at that time, and so I was just doing temporary work. Anything from like working warehouses to doing the garbage truck around my town. And finally, the temp service called me and said, "Hey, we have this temp job for a conveyor company, and that's actually it's engineering." I was like, "It's close enough. Let's do it. I'll take it." I was pumped. And the company was the company that eventually me and Jordan both worked for, and so that's kind of how I started. Like I started this company as a temp intern. They hired me on. I was there for a few years, and then Jordan came on, and that's how it all started for me.
Yeah. So after I graduated, I went and worked at a consulting firm that does like commercial work and like typical kind of structural engineering firm that you'd imagine. And I worked there for 5 years. And then after I got my engineering license, my PE, I just wanted to explore my options. And there was just a company that called Design Conveyor Systems that the structural engineer that was there was leaving. So they were looking for a replacement. And the work just seemed interesting, and they I would be like my own department. We'd kind of start like building a structural department, and that sounded exciting to me. And it just turns out that Dave was the one that was leaving, and he was going. We were basically swapping. He was leaving to go get some experience in like the consulting world, and I was leaving the consulting world. And just as I was replacing him, or whatever, I guess, replacing him, he was kind of helping me get warmed up to the software and to like the flow of things, and just like whatever, the lingo that this industry uses. And that's kind of how we kind of started, getting to know each other. And then Dave.
I was going to say, at that point, we were really just kind of crossing paths. And like he said, I was at a consulting firm. After 2 years at a consulting firm, I was bored. I was just bored. It was boring. And I was ready to come back to this industry because I really like this industry. It's like there's things to be figured out. There's like, I just like it more. It's more interesting. So I went back to the same company, and me and Jordan, at that point now we got to work together. And so we worked together for about 2 years at that company before we started Epiq Engineering.
It was cool. It was a cool time. Like we were really like kind of taking risks on like big software purchases, like begging for the company to like buy like more things software like Tekla, so we can like just do more. We were just like we were from beginning to end, just like designing the structure all the way through, like kind of partnering with the fabrication shop, making sure like all the fab drawings and everything's getting fabricated right. So like talking to the field and making sure like it was like a full blown. We were just the two that were doing that whole process. So it was pretty exciting.
Yeah, it's awesome. I feel like, just following it in looking on LinkedIn and just kind of your website, it seems like it was just kind of natural for you guys to start Epiq. And I'm sure it was not as easy as as everyone thinks it is, but I guess touch on that, like the process of, the idea, it's in your head, I'm sure it takes some time to go about that. I'm curious.
Yeah. I mean, I guess the idea came about when we at Design Conveyor Systems, they were looking for some ways to just grow, I guess. And for whatever reason, they chose me to be one of the people to be like on in that group. And of course, like my idea, like the only thing in my head is like, well, we could do like structural engineering services for like other people in the industry. And so that's kind of like how the idea started. Like they didn't really like that. They were looking for more like $100 million ideas instead of like $500,000 or whatever it would like make them. But they were looking for bigger ideas. But that's kind of how it kind of spawned. And we just kind of started chit chatting, and we just we just knew that there was a need out there for. Of course, we knew of like other engineering firms that were kind of doing it. Like we were familiar with like Seismic and some other engineering firms. Like we knew there were a couple, but we knew it was slim pickings. And we knew that if we did start something, we'd be kind of like the young guns, right? It's kind of like an older man industry. So yeah.
I think one of the best things we had going for us was ignorance. Because how do we know how difficult the path was going to be, especially with our software OneRack? If I had saw the mountain that we were about to climb, I would have been like, I don't think I can do this. But we didn't know. So we took every battle right in front of it. It was just like things would pop up, like, oh, by the way, you need insurance. Okay, what is insurance? Like, how do we get insurance? And it was just one after the other. Until finally, I guess now we've been doing this for 5 or 6 years now. We think we have everything. We think we have everything figured out.
Yeah. Until you do the next thing, and then you're.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, our software is still an uphill battle that is probably never going to end. But I think that the ignorance was definitely a good thing to have, because otherwise it would have been. I don't know if I would have done it.
Yeah. No, I feel that's a common answer on, most people that I've talked to that start their own companies. You think it's going to be easy, but in the back of your mind, like, it's not, but you kind of trick your brain.
This is what I get a lot too. Man, you're your own boss, dude. That must be so great. You can just like take vacations wherever you want. Like, dude, if that's what you think, doing your own company is going to be, don't start your own company. Don't do it. Don't do it.
Yeah, there's a clip of Dana White saying the same thing. I remember seeing that.
Yeah,
he was a little more vulgar in his in the way he explained it, but it's pretty much the same thing.
That's the UFC guy, right?
Yeah.
I get that a lot, though. I get that a lot. Man, it must be so great. Just make your own hours, man. That doesn't work that way.
Completely dictated by your customers and.
Yeah, like everyone has a boss. Everyone has a boss. Like I've got lots of bosses, and they have deadlines just like any other boss. So
you got the people that work with you. You got all your customers. You got your family. Like it's not.
But it's worth it. Like it's worth it. Like I love what we do. I love engineering. I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. It's very natural for me. Like I'm in a natural position. So I could work 24 hours a day if I didn't have to sleep. And so I enjoy it. I wouldn't want it any other way.
Yeah. No, and one of the things you guys said in the video is just like this industry it's weird because people look at it, and I think people from the outside looking in think yes, it's fast paced, but it is archaic in many ways. And it's like, it's cool because you can make a difference in this industry, and start in, what you guys are doing. And it's just it is kind of crazy to think of that, though, isn't it? Like, you can create something that changes the way, people do things.
That's one of the things that motivates us. Like we love efficiency and like we love innovation, and this industry needs it. And so like we get super motivated by like, changing the industry for the better.
It's pretty unique. I'd say that like there's not many industries I feel like that are like that you can look at it. It's been around for a while. People have been doing it for decades and decades and decades, but yet like it's just kind of so far behind the times. And there's just like a lot of opportunity for, I don't know, just some like innovation and some youth and,
No, when I had started 2-3, and it's kind of, I'm okay with saying it now. It's kind of embarrassing, but you look at it like how you used to do things. For me, it's like even 3.5 years ago after starting 2-3, like to what we're doing now. It's like, it's almost embarrassing looking at like the processes I was going through for drawings and like not using the 3D, rendering software I'm doing now. It's just like things can change so quickly. It's surprising that, as long as you're like willing to learn and always trying to find a better way, it's not that difficult.
It's hard to change an industry though. And people are creatures of habits, and like, especially the engineer types. And it's hard to get people to adapt because people want to do what they're used to doing because it works. And so having like, convincing people to change to a new technology or a new way of doing things is not just, I wish it was as easy as just showing them a really neat tool and then immediately recognizing the value in it. But it's just not that easy. Sometimes it takes, um, you know, it just takes a while, I think, for people to,
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I'm kind of hoping, I'm hoping this, can be a way, to get the attention to some of the, because one of the questions I was going to ask you is when you start Epiq, is the intention more to work with manufacturers or integrators? So you're working with, like our sales guys are working with you. And I'm assuming that once OneRack was started, like that was kind of like the avenue into the,
Yeah.
like the regular sales solutions engineer
Yeah.
type guy.
Yeah. So I mean, I kind of tell you a little bit of the story. It's like just in our early days of Epiq, we were working with, a couple of integrators and really like one manufacturer. But still, like our main contact, that manufacturer, were like sales guys.
Mm.
And they were just kind of pounding us with prelims, which is our job. And so it's fine, it's our job. But they were coming. The sales guys want to go back and forth with us, like, well, how about you try this beam? Our competitor has this frame. What can we do to like match this weight? How come so many anchors? Did you consider this? How about you change this? The customer, the end user is changing this on us. Can you redo this prelim? So all this back and forth, and yeah, so that's kind of when we're just like, man, I wish like these guys, they know what they want done. They're asking us these questions. They know what inputs are needed. Like, why don't they just have a tool that they can just do this themselves, answer their own questions, make their own adjustments, their own changes, and it would just make it. It's a win-win-win for everybody. And that's kind of what I sparked the idea for OneRack. And so yeah, it was really that. It was like the experiences that we had at the time with both integrators and manufacturers. And from so it started with both really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, I have a few questions just, and this is getting into the weeds, but even, so I ended up signing us up. I signed us up for, the pro because I was just trying it out. And one of the things, and it's funny, I had a guy call me from South Carolina yesterday, and he had a question kind of about the process of how, because people see prelims, people see permitting, people see that, and they get very scared to get involved in it. There's a lot of, people that are just getting into, doing design work for warehouses and whatnot. And, I think people definitely are intimidated by, this portion of the project.
Yeah.
So walking through the process, like you do the prelims and then you have the permitting package. But when it comes to actually pulling the permit, do you guys get involved in that, or is you relying on general contractors or whoever has their, contracting license in each state? That was a guy called me yesterday to ask me that. And I'm like, it's funny you asked me that.
Yeah.
I'm talking to the guys tomorrow.
Yeah. Yeah. So our line has always kind of ended with like providing our customers with the stamp drawings and calculations. And of course, there's like if the jurisdiction is coming back with questions about the permit package, of course we get involved there. But we have never gotten involved in the actual like permit application submittal process and with actually submitting it to a jurisdiction. But like in saying that, like as I say that, I'm thinking that like we're really trying to learn more about how these projects flow from beginning to end, right? So and right now we feel like we're really good at like our spot, right? The prelim to stamp calculation reports, we're really good at that. And we love doing it. That's our experience. Part of the reason why we don't venture out and like help out with permit submittal stuff is like we don't know much about it. Like somebody else can just do it better probably because we don't know much about it. And anything before it prelims get to us, I don't even really know what happens. So like we're really making an effort to like learn more about the industry, the function that everybody, that all like distributors, integrators, dealers, manufacturers, what have you, all play in this industry, and how a project flows from like inception to installation or whatever, inspection.
Yeah.
And I feel like that, yeah. So like, who knows down the line, we could be submitting permits through every state in the country. I don't know, but right now, like, we kind of stop with our expertise.
Yeah. One of the things, like when we're going through the prelim process, and this is a question that I've asked our manufacturers, because a lot of times I think, like most companies, like we rely on the rack manufacturer. Like if we're just specifically talking about racking right now, like
Yeah.
I would rely, and our guys would rely on that salesperson from the manufacturer to get with their engineering to run the prelims, and then we kind of just have them do all of it.
Yeah.
As I'm going through it on OneRack, I mean, it's, first of all, it's super easy to use. The one thing that I questioned, and I called the manufacturer, I'm like, why is it always top of beam? It's always measured from top of beam to the ground, and as a salesperson, and you guys are the real engineers, my title is solutions engineer. It's just, I'm not that smart of a guy. I just thought it was a cool title. But we work off of the pallet height, and then we have the distance between, the top of pallet to the bottom of the beam. And it's always like, what is that elevation? So that's how I'm always working off of, the beam elevations. And there's just been times where, like, we'll get something back and, like, forget to make the note to an installer, and they're seeing top of beam to ground when we're meaning, we want it to be the spacing from, in between each level. In a perfect world, it'd be awesome if we could go on there and say, hey, we know we're going to have 48-inch beam spacing, and then it's like provides the beam, that could, provide the beam based on the weight. I was curious as to, and maybe you don't have the answer, but I was always curious why that's how it's been measured.
I mean, the answer is, like, we haven't asked enough questions to the right people up to this point.
Yeah.
Like, so I like what you just said there, like what you see and like what you're curious about, and like how you receive information is like the questions I wanted to ask you during this time too,
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, you're right. Usually whenever we get information on a prelim, or basically like a customer will come to us, let's not even talk about OneRack, a customer will come to Epiq and say, hey, I have give me the prelim for some manufacturer that has 5 shelves. Here are the beam elevations. That's from ground to floor, 60, 120, and 144, blah, blah, blah. And with this much weight on it, what frames and what beams do I need, right? Mm-hmm. So that's how it comes to us typically. So taking those inputs, that's kind of like what we just kind of flew with whenever we created OneRack, right? It's like, this is what we're used to users needing to see. But like, as different types of users come on OneRack, it starts to reveal like the different kinds of needs and requests that each one have, right? So yeah, I mean, that's really where it comes from.
Yeah, no, I just was curious, because how we do it, we'll do just kind of like a very high level 3D concept where it's like, I mean, it's very accurate, but we're not doing any prelims just to discuss the elevation, so they can see, hey, elevation 1 is for this product type, it's going to be 60-inch clear between each, and then we're going to have a tunnel bay that's going to be, whatever, 108 or 144 inches clear.
Yeah.
So, but all the seismic, we've seen the seismic prelims that come back, and it's always, we had one mistake that we made is we took the elevations from seismic without making the note to our guys, like, hey, this is top of beam, not the clear. So I just was curious.
Yeah.
So I guess I want to understand this. So when you say clear, like when you think of your dimensions and you say clear, you mean like top of one shelf to the bottom of the beam of the other shelf. That clear distance in between. Okay.
Yep.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. I didn't know that.
I mean, some of the manufacturers that we work with, they speak where it's top of beam. I've just never understood that when our focus, as we're working with the customer, they could give 2 shits about the top of it. They want to know what's the distance between each level, so it's that's why I was always just curious.
What's going there is a pallet, right? And they know the size of their pallets, right? They just need to be able to fit it there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, question time, like so 2-3 Solutions, do you get to consider yourself an integrator? Are you an
Yeah.
integrator? Okay.
Yep.
And then you guys will, basically bid on projects. And so you guys will go to engineers and get prelims and then order material. And then do you guys do install and everything too?
Yep. Yeah. We have our own install company as well. It's called Brew City Install. It's a separate company, but I own both of those companies. And yeah, Brew City's been in probably 14 or 15 states. So they travel and work with all of 2-3's competitors around the country. But yeah, that's how it's typically worked. And really being up in Wisconsin, like that's now becoming more of a thing. Like it really, when I was selling rack working for a forklift dealer, like I never had to deal with that because we had like an engineer in-house that would do it when necessary. But even when starting this, it's like you get into some of these bigger jobs and sometimes like we just kind of rely on the GC to if they want us to run all of that, we can, but we're relying on the manufacturer to, run the prelims to quote us the correct, components at least. Yeah.
Yeah. How do you say, you said a lot of times you guys just rely on the manufacturer to run the prelim. How are you choosing a manufacturer? Is it just proximity to the project location or what?
I mean, honestly, it's based on the relationships that we have with them. I think like most, like unless it's a tight deal and we know freight's going to be a huge issue, like we're working with the same couple rack manufacturers all the time just because we like working with them. And when there's been problems, they've stuck by us. So that's kind of, I mean, that's the biggest thing for us is, you can work with anyone and anyone's happy when you're selling a lot of their stuff. But when they make a mistake or we make a mistake, like are they willing to come to the table? And so that's what we've based it on now. Cause it's like, we've been around for 3.5 years. We have to work with people that we trust. And we've tried going the other way where, you take the lowest deal, man, it's rarely does it work out the way you want it to work out.
Okay. Yeah. And do you have like main contacts over there, or is it kind of just like whenever you're looking for a new prelim or like you send them a prelim to quote or something like that? Is it just the same person you're sending it to, or is it something different?
That's how it is. Yeah, that's how it is now. We have the same rep that handles our account for pretty much all the rack manufacturers. They have one rep that handles a certain area, so we would fall within that, whether the project is on the East Coast or West Coast or here. It's because we're headquartered out of Wisconsin. So for now. So
we always I mean, in our experience as just engineers, like whenever we're working for a manufacturer, let's say, it's all about just like, hey, get it as light as possible, Obviously, we're being safe here, but like really what they want is to get it come up with the safest solution that's as light as possible, right?
Yep.
And so, again, just not really knowing how everybody rolls in this industry, kind of just figured like you guys are just going to go with as many manufacturers, or like get prelims from as many manufacturers that are in some proximity and see who comes with cheapest, and if it works, it works.
No, it is weird how how it is. I mean, so part of the main reason for our company name 2-3 Solutions is because we walk into a deal and people need to get 2 or 3 quotes. So it's like, well, why don't you just come to us for 2 or 3 solutions? We'll come to you from if it's racking, we'll go to 2 or 3 different rack manufacturers. If it's an aerosol cage, if it's a platform, we have relationships with everyone. So that was the reasoning behind the name, and that's how it works. Is like we get a big rack job, like we're gonna go to 3 to 4 probably, rack manufacturers, give them all the same specs. We're going to do the elevations like I talked about, where it's just the clear. And then we're relying on them to know like, hey, they want to be competitive. They're going to do it as close. They're going to, try to get as much out of that as they can so they can provide the lightest and the most cost effective, because that's just how it is. Yeah.
And then on your end, I guess whenever you get an opportunity? Is that also just based on relationships and yeah?
Yeah, I mean, pretty much all of our biggest projects have been because of relationships.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, do you guys I guess the service that you guys provide just outside of kind of, installation and getting with the manufacturer, do you guys do any kind of like layout work with them?
Yeah.
And, yeah.
Yep.
Well,
Yep.
what is that about? Is your expertise, I guess, in laying out a warehouse in the most efficient manner, figuring out do I want drive-in rack or selective or whatever? Is that is that your honey hole? Is that what you guys are
Yeah.
good at?
Yeah. It's pretty much like you tell us what the problem is when it comes to storing your products, and it's like depending on, whether it's driving pallet flow or we're getting into maybe some pallet runner type systems, like understanding, what the end goal is with them. But yeah, I'd definitely say that's what we like to do is, whether it's a new warehouse or it's, hey, we're running out of space here. How do we make this one more efficient by,
Yeah.
maybe dismantling and kind of starting over. But yeah, no, that's definitely what we enjoy doing. And then it's like all the other miscellaneous warehouse items we do as well. The modular offices, the guardrail,
Oh, yeah.
machine guarding, all of that. But like the core of what we do is definitely, what you had just said there.
Yeah, sweet. Yeah, that's so interesting. How did you gain, I guess, before 2-3 Solutions, were you doing that in the industry before you started your own gig, like your own thing?
Yeah, so I worked for Fairchild Equipment. We were selling forklifts, and whether they'll say it or not, I mean, the job of a forklift company is to sell forklifts, and some of them have branched and they've created their own divisions where they have like warehouse solutions and they're focused only on that. But the majority of them, I mean, those guys are judged by, and by the ITA of how, the market share of the forklifts that they sell. So for me, there were not many of us that were working on projects like this. And it kind of just got to probably a similar point with you guys, that you guys had when you started Epiq is, kind of just wanted to start my own thing. And I had found out that my wife was pregnant with our third when I went to go give my 2 weeks to start it, right in the middle of COVID. So I figured that was a good time to start a business. But yeah, it was just one of those things. Like I knew I built enough relationships where I would figure it out. I didn't know exactly where I was going to go. I mean, the first couple months, like I have a picture here at the office. I mean, I went to a customer here in Wisconsin, in Waukesha, Wisconsin, and they had 2,000 or 3,000 pallets. Like I convinced them to let me buy them and resell them just because I had bills to pay. And, I didn't like, I knew I wanted to get it to where it is today, but I didn't know exactly how that was going to happen.
Yeah. Do you feel like you've arrived? I mean, are you you say been doing this for like I said 2.5 to 3 years? Do you feel like, all right, I kind of made it, like I'm off the ground for sure, and
Yeah, I mean, we have our own building now, which is a good feeling.
Yeah.
Do I feel like we've arrived? We're so far away from where I think we should be. Do I feel confident to talk to you guys? And other people in this industry? Yeah, I feel like my confidence has grown in that way. But from where we're at, I mean, until there's 2-3 in multiple, parts of the country, and everyone knows who we are, and we're helping as many people as can. It's just hard to, and I'm sure you guys are the same way. Like it's.
Yeah, I mean, I feel the same way. I will never be satisfied where we are. That's just my nature.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. When we started, we worked from home for the first year, and we went and bought this building closer to downtown Nashville, and I don't know what we were thinking, but we didn't have enough money in our bank account for the down payment. We didn't, but we're like, well, we closed in like 4 months. I bet we'll have it by then. And we did. Like, sure enough, we did. So we cut it close. It was an old barbershop. Yeah, it was an old barbershop that we fixed up, and it was actually really cool. But we outgrew it. It held like, I think we had maybe 6 desks in there, or something like that. And we outgrew it after like 2 or 3 years, and now we're in just a different location, a little bit bigger office, but not much bigger.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's
that
awesome.
that barber shop was like on the verge of being condemned, and
Rough.
we demoed it to the point where, so basically it was like a square building, and it had a downstairs that was below street level, a basement, and then an upstairs. And we gutted it to where all there was like 4 walls and a floor. We took off the roof. We took off everything. Like there were pictures of us on a ladder, just like with our heads sticking out of the roof.
Yeah.
And we acted as GC. It shows how much time we had back then.
Yeah.
Yeah, we would.
Dave and I, and we GC'd the whole thing. We were there for everything that happened there. And like put on a new roof. We did like a lot of stuff ourselves. And anyways, it was an exciting time.
Yeah. No, I feel you there. The only requirement I had for this building is that it was high, like the clear height was high enough so we could put a basketball hoop in here. That was the only.
Oh yeah, see, we wanted a golf simulator, but we don't have the room for it. Yeah.
That's on the way. It'll be here next week. I cannot.
Really?
I cannot wait.
Man.
Are you guys in a warehouse style? Yeah. Do you guys store? Do you guys store equipment? Like, do you guys?
Yep. Yeah. So we stock guardrail and safety products.
Okay.
We have another company. It's called Warehouse Guard, and it's a safety product company. So guardrail, post protectors. Pretty much anything yellow. So we have 3 of our companies here that run out of this, and it was actually a multi-tenant building, which worked out great because one side is where that actually makes us money, and then the other side is like the fun side. So
that's what I wanted, but
yeah,
I guess we're not there yet.
Yeah. Well, honestly, I don't like. Probably the same thing. Like we probably aren't either, but I know we're going to. So let's just make it happen. So
also, man, I'm telling you, like office space in Nashville is just really expensive. It's just crazy.
Yeah, it's nasty.
It's crazy. We actually got this building right before the interest rate spike. So those were the first 2 or 3 years was definitely for us. It was like, I mean, it was like instant growth. Though. Like we never had a period where we were like, man, are we gonna make it this month? I never really felt that too much. Like we had been in the industry long enough to where we had relationships with people, and so when we went off on our own, we had a pretty good network that we could tap into.
Yeah, it was amazing. I'm sure you guys felt the same thing when you went to go on your own. People, for me at least, were coming out of the woodworks asking if I needed help and willing to help. And it's, one of my questions I have for you guys is just, I would love for this to be a platform where people can, thank those that helped them get to where they're at. And for me, I mean, I had several, but I just was curious, as you guys are going throughout the process of starting, Epiq, and I'm sure before then too, like, I guess who comes to mind? Who comes to mind first when I ask that?
Yeah, I mean, I'll start. I mean, Dave, this can be a throwback for you, but like when we probably our biggest one, but he's a little discreet, maybe not that well known, but like when we first started, we had so many engineering questions, and it's because of like at Design Conveyor Systems, we were focused on conveyor systems and like steel structures, but when we broke out on our own and started getting into racks. Like they seem simple, the engineering seems simple, but like you can make them as complicated as you want, right? Like they can be complicated. And there was a gentleman named Dave Fennell that would always take our phone call. And I don't even really know what company he's with, or if he's a freelancer or what. Yeah, but that dude had so much knowledge, and he's so wise, and he was always willing to go deep in engineering topics with us, and it helped us out a lot. Because some of these codes that we have to go by in the engineering world are written so vaguely that you have to have been at the table in 1997 at Stanford, where it was, to like know what they're even talking about. And Dave now just kind of helped us out. So
yeah,
that's awesome.
This is another throwback. I was gonna say, my first instinct that came to mind was really, I just felt like it was just me and Jordan out there kind of by ourselves, and there was nobody else really like fighting for us. I felt like I just felt like it was just me and Jordan, and that was it. But I would say, a guy named David Belt. I really encouraged us. Really, to me, like he was kind of like the encourager. He was like, guys, you can do it. There's plenty of business out there. Go for it. And like it really amped me up. And I think David Bell was a good mentor and cheerleader.
So I guess off that, what and maybe you guys didn't have anybody that didn't believe in you. Maybe everybody did. But I would imagine there might have been some people that didn't like that you guys were doing what you did. I guess, were you more motivated of the people that were, from the people that were encouraging you, or the people that, maybe didn't think you guys would make it happen?
Good question.
The people that didn't believe in us that we could do it, I don't think they really spoke up much, but I'm sure there were their doubters. But
I absolutely am more motivated by somebody telling me I can't do something than somebody telling me that I can't. Like if you tell me that I cannot do something or it can't be done, or that is the ultimate fuel for me. Yeah. And I will scorch the earth to get it done. And so that's what really motivates me.
Yeah. I knew the answer to that question just based on the last 40 minutes of talking with you guys. Yeah.
Like I've had those in my life. Like I would even say, because like the way we started Epiq was a little rocky. We didn't get into all the details of it. But there was like, lawsuits and things like that happened. And, so there was definitely people that were against us, right? Against us. And, telling us that, I mean, I don't know. It was a lot. It was a lot of stuff at that time. So that was very, it was motivating for me.
Yeah. No, I think we went through similar things where it's just like, people that you wouldn't necessarily think would do some things like that, or maybe have your back, don't. And I'm glad it was that way. Cause I wouldn't want it any other way. And I'm the same way. It's like, please don't. And sometimes you're like, please, why did you have to do that? Now I'm going to have to like, I didn't think I needed to be motivated or be driven anymore. But thank you for doing that. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. I love being, under, what's the word? What you say, Jordan? Underestimated. I love being underestimated. Yeah.
Yeah. No, and that's kind of how I feel. I mean, I feel that. I don't know how you can't feel that. I mean, especially for us, like we're so far away from where we should be that it's like, I feel that now. And, I'm sure people, will think it's crazy that we're starting a podcast. And it's like, at the end of the day, like who cares? Like we're all human beings here. Like I don't care. Like if someone thinks it's a bad idea.
A Steve Jobs interview that I think about often, and he says, we live in a world that was designed by people who are no smarter than any of us at this table. And and it's so true. Like, it's so true. Like the older I get, the more I realize, I guess when you're young and you're just kind of in an entry level or junior position, you think your bosses and the exec team are like some sort of like, I don't know, God ordained wisdom. That's how they got there. It's just not usually the case. I mean, and I've just learned as I get older that like, the world is run by people who aren't as smart as I thought they were. It's just the truth. And, what separates your really successful people from your unsuccessful people could be as much just simply like believing that you're able to do it and the confidence to do it and to go out there and possibly fail. Right. And to get back up if you do. And so, I don't know.
Yeah. No, I agree.
A good one, Dad.
Yeah, that was good. That was good. I was going to jump in and go into detail about, some other things that you said there about who's running the world right now, and they're not as smart as we thought, but we don't need to get into all that. But
when you said running the world, I was like, duh, we all know they're not smart.
Yeah. No, one of the other questions I've been asking is and we've talked about some lessons and mistakes that have been made, but like, what mistakes or lessons have you guys learned or made, that could help new people coming into the industry that, don't have to make the same mistake that you guys did, or lesson, learn that you can share with others? I guess
Yeah.
what comes to mind first?
What comes to mind first is that since this week has been so off kilter, I haven't had the opportunity to think about the questions that you sent us. So, like, I don't know the answer.
Hey,
There's
that's
nothing that
better.
immediately comes to my head. Dave, you
Yeah.
got any like?
I mean, there isn't sort of like little, quick, any advice I would give to somebody coming into this industry would be the same advice I would give to someone going into any industry, any job. That is like, listen, pay attention, learn. Like, take time to learn before you, I don't give out a bunch of solutions before you really take time to understand the problem. And so that's what I would advise that for anybody going into anything.
Yeah. No, that's good. And, in terms of the questions that were sent out, I figured I have to at least have some sort of format,
Yeah.
but I just want it to be a conversation.
Yeah.
And whether anyone reads the questions or not, I don't care. I mean, I feel like,
Jake, what was your answer? What would be your answer to that question?
so when I first thought of the question, I was thinking like very specifically to the first rack project I was working on, like very like a specific thing that happened in the deal. Like that was the first thing. I mean, and everyone that I've asked now has had more of an answer like, what you just gave. But I mean, so like specifically to that project, sold the deal, worked with one of the old timers at the company. He pretty much did all the work. He ends up retiring, leaving. Customer calls me and says, "Hey, we need another upright frame. We hit, somebody hit it." Me, I make the phone call. I say, "Hey, I need another upright frame." We deliver it, and it's blue instead of the green, frames. And the customer's pissed off, and everything ended up being fine. But it's just like, that's a mistake that I'll never make again. But ultimately, I think the biggest lesson I've learned is like, everyone at 2-3, when we start, we all read The Compound Effect, the same book, and it's just about doing all the small things every single day, everything within your control. Just however you want to stay it, laying bricks or stacking good days or whatever, like whatever the saying is. It's like, I'd listen to a bunch of podcasts, read a bunch of books, follow a bunch of successful people, and it's like, no matter, if you want to summarize everything that they all say, if they're actually successful people, is doing the small things every single day over time and just trusting the process. And it's until I started doing that, I guess once I started doing that, I actually realized like, wow, that actually is that is how good things happen. So no, that's it.
I also have OneRack open if we wanted to do like a screen share, and like, I know you've fiddled around with it a little bit, it sounds like, but
no, I'd love that. That's actually was just below the last point that wasn't showing up on the screen as a OneRack demo. So yeah, that's like the point of this whole call. Jesus.
Usually when I'm giving demos to people, they come to me and I know that they need, they're looking for a prelim tool, right? They say, "Hey, I want to get on OneRack to do prelims or whatever." I know it's a prelim solution. I guess outside of just like wanting to, I guess whenever you were fiddling with it, did you wish that it solved any more problems, or was there a gap in between like solutions for you? Like, obviously he's going to tell you some capacities of frames and whatnot, but like, were there some gaps? Like, obviously, like clear spacing is like an example. Is there anything else that you?
The only thing I was wondering is if you have the pro version, and let's say I know I'm going to work with Heartland Steel or Space Rack, and I give all the I give the weights and I tell you what the height is, and we know what the width and we know what the depth of the frame is. Will it tell you the recommended? Can it tell you the recommended frame if it's once the frame turns red, right? So if it's, let's say it's a tunnel bay and it's over capacity, like is there a way for it to give you the frame that is, like we talked about, the most cost effective, the less amount, like, is that something that can happen?
So it's in the works, and it's a little bit more complicated than it seems. I'd say some solutions are more complicated than it seems. So it's going to be something that's called optimization, right? So, but I'll go ahead and what manufacturer did you spit out a couple?
Let's do Space Rack. Yeah,
okay,
Space Rack.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let's say that, and I'm just going to throw some. I'm going to make the beam Space Rack too. I'm going to say match frame. I'm going to throw in some levels. So there's a lot of different ways to make a frame pass, right? Like, so if this is failing under this beam, just due to the amount of weight, you can explore, changing the panel spacing to 24. You can add a backer. You can change, obviously there's like changing beam elevations, weight and whatnot. So there's a lot of different solutions to solving a problem, okay? Which is one of the reasons why engineers will provide different prelims, right? Like if there is one solution to every answer, then all prelims from every engineering firm would be the same.
Yep.
Right? So anyways, it might seem simple to say like, just the recommended, what is the right frame to that I should use here? And the answer is, yeah, we're working on it. And what it's going to be is going to be called optimization, where you're going to set something up. You can set up your manufacturer and your frame fails, right? Or even if it passes, but you want to make sure that you have the most optimal design. And you hit optimize, and what it's going to do is going to take your configuration and it's going to go through every single possibility that this manufacturer likes to explore in panel spacing, and let's say braces are failing, and brace sizes, base plates, and backer heights, and frame, column sizes, and it's going to go through just basically using computing power. It's going to go through hundreds of thousands of different options and choose the most optimal one. So it seems like a simple thing in that, like, hey, what's the right frame? But like, to give the right frame in our eyes as engineers, like, it is a little bit of a complicated process. Yep. So right now it's just a trial and error situation where, a lot of our users are just like, yeah, I want to explore a 14 gauge. And like, I mean, look, this one passes with, 37% utilization or 46% utilization, right? Like, this is fine, right? They probably don't want to explore any other options, but yeah, if you have failures, it's kind of a trial and error situation.
Yeah, no, because for me, it's like, just getting into doing this and using your guys' software. It's like, I don't feel comfortable from, hey, I'm the sales guy. I don't want to tell you like what the profile of your frame should be, but it's just like trusting this is the, it's not like you're pulling this out of thin air. Like, you're working with all of these manufacturers and understanding the frames.
And that's something that I'm telling people verbally that should probably be explained more, is that like, yeah, this is like everything that we have in here comes from collaboration with the manufacturers. So like, we are arbitrarily saying that like, this is what a Space Rack frame looks like. Like, we've gotten with Space Rack, we've collaborated with them. They've given us all of their engineering information, how they manufacture every single one of their frames. So like, if this is a 216-inch frame, if we make it 300 inches, it's going to change. And like, that's how they manufacture a 300-inch frame, right?
Yep.
So it comes with we've gotten with collaborate with the manufacturers to get this information all right. And yeah, so we want it to be where you don't have to be an engineer to be able to use this. Obviously, like, we wanted there to be as little inputs required as if you're compared to if you're just getting a prelim from an engineer, right? If you're getting a prelim from an engineer, you say this many shelves, this manufacturer, beams at these levels or clear spacing or whatever, and then pallet weight or shelf weight, and then project location or whatever. And that's what's required with OneRack.
Yep. No, that's an awesome point that you made, is, because when you were just doing the demo there, it's like hard to believe. I mean, it makes sense from all the videos I've watched, but like, it's hard to believe like there's so many different types of frames that you could go with, and it's just, I'm a sales guy at heart. Like I've never had to be involved that in depth with all of this, and it's cool to just be able to do that, and,
Yeah.
Yeah,
and be
that's
able to,
interesting feedback, Jake. And that's something that I think we've talked. Me and Jordan talked about before is making sure the user feels comfortable. Like we don't want them to feel like they're in engineering software and it's super technical and like they're pushing all these technical buttons. Instead, we want it to be pretty like straightforward. Not intimidating, just very straightforward. But
Yep.
what you said was, like, hey, I'm a sales guy. I'm not sure I know what frame this is or if this is the right frame. I'm just kind of pushing buttons. So what that kind of speaks to me is if we had something on the screen that said like, you said Speed Rack and it was like we had Speed Rack's logo in the top left that said like Speed Rack certified, manufacturer is certified. And so you see a badge and their logo knowing like, oh, okay, this manufacturer certified this stuff. It must be good, right?
Yeah, no, it's because, I mean, first of all, it is easy to use, and that's obviously not what I was saying, but yeah, to your point, I mean, I think that would, that would have the peace of mind of anyone using it to feel comfortable to be able to send that to someone that works for that company. And it's not just some random frame that was, calculated. Like there was a lot of time that went into that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that would be awesome.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So, I mean, this is just like the feedback that is so helpful, right? Like, I mean, these tutorials, again, like I do tutorials all the time and it's really just people know what they're looking at. And they're probably people that have more experience kind of like, I don't know, getting their hands dirty, a little bit more dirty with prelims. And so, and they kind of know a little bit more about what they're looking at. But yeah, it's awesome to hear that feedback because like we know that this will be a useful tool for people like throughout the whole spectrum of whoever's involved in rack projects. We hope that to have a solution for everybody.
Yeah. No, and I'm, I like to ask questions. I'm okay if people think I should have already known that, but it's like, hey, I don't, and I'm going to ask the question. I think there's more people out there similar to me that sell rack that, than not.
We know that there's a lot. Like we're just getting started. We've had this. We pushed that like I think April of last year. So we're just getting started, and like I'm really more interested in negative feedback than in positive feedback.
Oh yeah.
I love hearing like what you just said. Like I'm not sure I have confidence in what I'm doing here. Like that's great feedback because that tells us something about like a user like you. And I think there's probably a lot of people, like you said, that just like you out there on this software.
Yeah.
No, but you just solved that. I mean, you solved that concern by just having the badge on there for me to know like, hey, no, you guys went through all of this. Like this is actually a space rack frame.
And like what we want to do is actually like we already collaborate with manufacturers. That already happens. But what we want to meet with a partner with a manufacturer and say and tell them like, hey, we want to get you guys on here as a certified manufacturer. And so like let's make sure all of your data is correct. We have all the correct data on here and really partner with them. And that way, like, it kind of gives them a badge on there. And I don't know, maybe that'd be an incentive for them too. So someone like you who's doing a speed rack thing is doing the right thing. So when they get a prelim from you, it's going to be right because they've certified everything that's on there. So.
Well, and they're going to be happy too, right? The more,
exactly. It's a win all the way around.
Yeah. The more salespeople that can do this accurately and give it to the manufacturer, the quicker it speeds up,
totally.
For the sales guy, for the rack manufacturer. So,
totally. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, really optimization is really going to kick butt. We feel like,
heck yeah,
it's going to, so like what you see what I just did here, like I solved that failing frame by just adding a backer, right? And, I mean, one thing about putting a prelim in an engineer's hands, and us included before OneRack, and our engineers in this industry are getting pounded with prelims. I mean, the deal is like everybody in this industry who's looking to be in, win projects need to know what frames they need, and they need an engineer or manufacturer to tell them what material it is. and it's industry standard that work is free, and that they're going to get their prelim back in like a day or a couple of
Right.
days or within the day or whatever, right? So like there is human error in putting the prelim into an engineer's hands that has 20 other prelims, 30 other prelims on their plate that day, right?
Yep.
So there's human error, and what optimization is going to do is, it doesn't matter how busy it is. It doesn't matter how many more prelims it has to do. It's going to just be a computer and pick the best option,
Yeah.
So
No, that's sweet.
I don't know if George mentioned this, but optimization is actually a very difficult problem. I don't think that the machine would beat us every time, probably. It would be difficult for me to optimize the least amount of weight of the steel on a particular rack. It would. So that's having a machine. Basically, we're just going to like burn through thousands of different configurations, figure out what's the lightest.
Yeah.
And no human can do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, that's perfect. I mean, I feel like at that point, and you guys will find something, but it's like at that point, it's like, what more would you need?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So.
It's coming. It's coming this year. Maybe next year. We may have to push it back to next year because we want to get pushback and flow going on this because that's a lot of people ask about that.
Yeah.
We have a whole roadmap of things that we want on in this app. But I mean, so when you said like after optimization, what else do would you need? Like right now, we feel like OneRack is solving a solution for like this little, like if a project from inception to installation, passing inspection, whatever, or like end users gets to start loading their rack, right? If that's the timeline of a project, we feel like we're right here, and like this is what we're solving, and we want to just learn more about who all is involved in every part of this timeline here, and how OneRack can play a role in that. And it may not be that this person that's closer to the inception of a project is looking for a prelim tool, but they might be looking to communicate with a 2-3 Solutions, right? Like maybe they're looking for the best partner to get their project going, and they just don't have the Rolodex. They don't have the connections that you do, the close relationships or whatever. So we're trying to kind of find just kind of a bigger place in the project workflow. After we nail kind of our expertise down designing storage racks, we want to kind of start learning about the peripherals a little bit of the project.
Yeah. No, if I'm, Dave, like you said, any input, my thing is if I'm going on here, I'm like the elevations and getting the prelims are awesome. Like if there was another section of this where you could do just 2D renderings where you could upload a CAD, that would be awesome to have it all in one spot.
That's probably some of the biggest feedback we got at ProMat last year. A lot of people asked that. So that's like something that's very close to the top of our list. Because I honestly think that's kind of low-hanging fruit. That's some easy stuff. Like that is easy. The hard stuff is like the engineering, optimization algorithms, and all that kind of technical stuff. But
Finish your thought there. You said 2D renderings, and where you say like upload. You say upload a CAD.
Yeah, like if you could upload a CAD file, right? Like you do a drawing, you put your 2D in there, but it would all be predicated based on the frames and the base plates that are recommended based on the prelims. Because a lot of times what happens is, we're going in and we're just doing the basic concepts, and it's like, all of a sudden you need this massive base plate that you weren't thinking about, and that messes with the drawing. Instead of having a 3x3 frame in there that you draw and then all of a sudden have to, go change, it'd be nice if it's somehow they talk to each other where like the layout would change based upon whatever the prelim comes back as.
Yeah. What do you start with? Like, do you get a CAD drawing of an empty warehouse, and they say we're trying to, with so many dock doors, and they say we're trying to solve this problem, help us?
It varies almost on every project. Like sometimes I would say the majority of the time, 90% of the time, we're getting a drawing, we're getting a CAD. On all the big projects, we're getting CAD files. but yeah, it'll be, sometimes it's, hey, we know we're going to have this type of forklift, and we know that means, okay, we can do 11-foot aisles, or we can do 10.5-foot aisles. It's like, we're going to do the 2D drawing first to see how many, bays we can fit in there. And then it's understanding, the elevations, like we said, so we could figure out and solve for, hey, in this, whatever, 250,000 square foot facility, we can fit X amount of pallet positions, and so it's just, it varies on every job. But yeah, we're trying to get the CAD file as much as we can and just go over different concepts of, of the drawings first on the, from a 2D standpoint.
When you say 2D, are you referring to 2D rack elevations or a 2D like warehouse floor plan layout?
Floor plan. Yeah. Floor plan.
Okay.
Yep. Sorry. Yep.
Okay. Okay. So we would upload your CAD file into OneRack, and then OneRack would have, it would come in there, and then you would want to basically plop in your rack system in OneRack.
Yeah. And I feel like the only way to probably do that is build it within OneRack, right? Because if we uploaded, let's say, the 2D rack layout, like, I don't know. I mean, again, I'm not an engineer. I don't know how your system would, the prelim drawing would speak to the actual, rack that we upload. So it's like, even if it was just an empty CAD that we uploaded, or an empty warehouse, that we upload, and we physically do the drawing within OneRack.
Yeah.
That's what I was thinking.
Okay. So because and then they would be linked together. So so like you see things are fail, or you want to move stuff up, it automatically updates your AutoCAD. Okay.
Yeah.
I get it.
Yeah. And then you can just export to CAD, and you have it where, instead of, and I think most people would want it that way, instead of it putting OneRack on there, you pay a little more and you get your logo on there, so you can have, you create your title block, create your title block on there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. That's just interesting.
That's interesting. Yeah. We talked about that before. I mean, like the whole like warehouse layout thing has definitely been discussed here before. So.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's good to hear your perspective on that.
Yeah.
Whenever you go from like prelim to getting a bid from a manufacturer, as far as quantities, is that ever a problem? Like how many of this type of frame I need, and how many beams I need, and is that a thing? And is that a pain point? That's
part of the reason for this. I mean, that's a good question, because it's like, man, if you could spit out the right, you'd be able to spill out the bill of materials.
Yeah.
And it's just, if you don't have to double check that, and for sure it's it's accurate, like, it takes time. Definitely on the big projects. I mean, the software we use, we can do that, but it's it's separate, and you were still double checking and triple checking, and so is the manufacturer, just to make sure. But that would be very.
Like
very
again,
good.
I think that's the easier stuff. Like it's not. It's not like super easy, but I think it's doable. I think
probably a lot easier than figuring out how to optimize the prelims.
Yeah. I mean, we've got if you saw the back end of this thing, we have finite element analysis going on. It's a very complicated.
Listen, when it comes to those problems, like we can hunker down in our bunker with us and the rest of the engineers here and our developers, and we can solve these technical problems. But when it comes to those kinds of problems that you just talked about, like, we need to talk to people like you. Like we need to know, like what pain points do you have? And then, like, they might be easier technically to solve, but like they're harder to diagnose that it's a problem in the first place.
Yeah.
So hey, another question for you. So say you were working on a prelim, and you were also simultaneously coming up with a layout, right? Mm-hmm. But there's still a point where you have to like leave OneRack to like get the prelims from OneRack. Then you can go like send them off to Space Rack, and then Space Rack is gonna, I don't know, like, I guess what do you are they just, if you had quantities and you had what frames you're using, what beams you're using, and quantities of everything, would they just come back to you with just a quote for like how much this material cost?
Yeah, and it definitely would speed up the process for us. It's just, we're going to be having those. It doesn't need to be perfect for us to have the meetings with the customers to go over all the drawings, just to go through the concept. But if we have all that, and we can send that to, to them, they're going to get us back a quote immediately, because all they're doing is just going into their system and, clicking on their SKU and putting quantity. And it's a very simple process if that's the case. I know the, our rep would be happy if, we were sending over accurate, prelims with, and when I mean accurate, I mean optimized, right? Like where it makes sense. And, bill of materials, that would make their life a lot easier.
Yeah. That's really sounds like it's a big ROI. Like you guys, like for us, I don't think it'd be too hard of a problem to solve, but it solves a pretty big pain point for you guys. At least a pain point. I feel like it might not be that difficult, but I feel like the accuracy of those counts is like has high risk, right? Like if you get those counts wrong, then you got a fire drill on your hands, right? Or you're wasting money or whatever. There's high risk there. Yeah.
Oh yeah. It's peace of mind the same way it's knowing you're going to send the right frame. It's like you got the quantities right. I mean, I'd be lying if I wasn't part of jobs where it's like, shit, I was off by, like, how was I possibly off by 12 beams? Like, how is that even possible? I got the decks right, and I got everything else right. Like, how did somehow we miss 12, I mean, that happens. That happens. So
are most of your projects like in the tens of frames, hundreds of frames, thousands of frames?
I would say upper, 80 to 100 is probably like the most common. We've had several jobs where it's, 1,000 plus and a couple hundred plus. But yeah, I mean, for us to get to where we need to be, we need to be playing in the, the bigger projects. Where obviously those types of mistakes make even more of a difference.
Yeah. Interesting.
Coming on, but I wanted this to be kind of like, we get to just like share the story of, two cool guys that build an awesome company and a software that's trying to help, improve this whole industry. So
I look forward to giving you our success story. We're not there yet, like we're still grinding away in early stages, and hopefully 5 to 10 years from now we can come back on here and tell you how we succeeded in OneRack.
Yeah.